going to go over adding tables to the parts database and the mark verify drawings. I actually picked 2 topics today. Usually we only do 1 per webinar, but these we try to go by, what's popular on the hit list or what we're providing a lot of support for. And that's why we decided to do 2 topics instead of 1. And the initial one that I'm going to demonstrate is the adding of tables to your parts database. And it's an important topic, very important topic. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways on how you can do that. You can do it from completely in the software. You can also do it from Microsoft Access itself. I have a new computer, fairly new. I don't have Access loaded yet, which isn't a big deal, but I'll show you how you can add tables or modify tables through Microsoft Access as well. And the way I approach this is not a webinar on how to create new symbols, but in the same sense, it's a big part of how we use the tables in the parts database. The table that you do use in the parts database is dictated by the symbol that you're creating, and that's what it usually boils down to. Out of the box, we have tables for PB for push buttons, CR for control relays, DR for drives. There's several of them in there, but you're always going to have to add your own. It's inevitable. You'll look at that table list and say, like, I'm going to create a table for an HMI. There is no tables for HMIs in the parts database. And you'll run into that here and there, especially with new components that hit the market. So you need, you really want to familiarize yourself with how you can add the proper tables. And it's really about organizing your parts database in general. So I'm just in a simple drawing, as you can see here. And I've basically put a symbol together already. It's just a basic, looking symbol with some terminals on it. And again, I'm not going to go through the whole process on how to create a symbol, but I am going to use the symbol builder and show you how it relates to the table in the parts database. And I'm going to do it a couple of different ways. So as an example right now, I'm going to go to my symbol builder. And even before I do that, if you ever want to get a list of the tables that are in your parts database currently, you can go to your catalog browser, pick on the drop-down menu here, and it will list all the tables that you have in your parts database, the default _ cat.mdb, or if you're using SQL as well. And I always like to start from the tables themselves, meaning if I have a brand new product and I want to create a symbol for that, I like to approach it as I'm going to put the table in the parts database first. And a lot of people, forget about that when you're in symbol creation mode, or you just don't have the knowledge yet on how to do that. Another way that you can look at all the tables in the parts database is through my other tools from my project tab. I can pick the add table catalog database right here, and I'm going to do this shortly, but at the very least, it will put on display a list of all the tables that currently exist in my parts database. And you're going to notice that there is none for an HMI. At the end of the day, I'm going to create a table called HM to represent all my HMI symbols as far as the parts database is concerned. As you can see, there currently is not one in here right now. So let's say I didn't, look at the tables first. Just had it on my mind. I got to create that symbol first. We do it. Everybody does it all the time because you got to get it in your schematic drawing. So right now, as an example, I'm going to go to my symbol builder. And like I said, this is not a symbol builder webinar, but it's a very important part about the tables in the parts database itself. And I'll pick a point. And I'll select right here, let's say it's a horizontal parent. And if you don't have the knowledge, this is where it can get confusing right from the beginning when you're creating a symbol. You might look at this and think that these are all your tables in the parts database. They are not. These are used to dictate what attributes that you're going to have available for a particular category. Notice I don't have anything for an HM or an HMI in here. There's nothing even for a drive in here. This is not a list of the tables in your parts database. It's just to dictate what attributes you have available in the block editor portion of the symbol builder. And if you don't see the one that you intend to create, then we leave it on generic, which I'm going to do right here. And I pick OK. And it takes me into my standard AutoCAD block editor. Now, for the tag 1, I'm going to default that to HMI. Now, typically, and I try to drive this home during class, your family code should be considered whatever your table is in the parts database. It's not the end all to be all, because what ultimately determines the table that you're going to access through the catalog browser is the actual symbol name itself. But I try to keep the family code the same name as whatever table I'm going to use in the parts database. Most of the symbols that come out of the box, if you ever use those to create other symbols, when you explode them, the family code, over 95% of the time will equal whatever the table is in the parts database. One particular example I'll show you at the end here is the connector symbol that you get out of the box. For whatever reason, they made the family code PJ, but the actual symbol name for the table is CO. Why they did it that way, I don't know. But typically, the family code attribute is going to be whatever the table is, whatever you intend the table to be in the parts database. And I'm just going to leave it blank. I'm not going to put a default in here. So obviously I've got everything already prepared for the symbol. My attributes are in there. My connection points are in there. So I'm going to say done. And then you're going to notice under the catalog lookup right here. Right now it's set to generic, which is DV. That's why the symbol name down here is HDV1. Now when I hit this drop-down menu, now I am back to a complete list of all the tables that live in the parts database itself. Once again, notice there's nothing for an HMI, which is what I'm ultimately making here. So I'm going to leave everything as is. Like I said, I'm going to show you, how the software reacts to the symbol name versus the table itself. And I'll just put a unique identifier in here of HMI. So right now my symbol name is HDV1 underscore HMI. No default in the attribute. And I'm just going to put this in my C drive under the one webinar here. And I'll do the same thing for the image file, the PNG. So I pick OK. And yes, I am going to insert one of these right away into my drawing. And now if I drop it down, let's say right about here, my tag came in just the way I wanted, HMI. Now under catalog data, when I hit the lookup button, notice it goes to this DV table, which is as generic as you can get. That defeats the purpose of, a theory behind the parts database itself. You want to set up a table so it will only search for catalog numbers for that particular component. That's why if you do insert a push button and you hit the lookup button, the category would go to PB. In that way, you're only going to search for push button catalog numbers. That's the whole point of this. If it's just generic DV, you could put in a catalog number for an HMI, a drive, a fuse, whatever. That's what it is. It's generic, which you don't want to do. That defeats the purpose of the setup of the parts database in general. And remember, the symbol name was HDV1, and then I put whatever I wanted at the end of it. So I'll pick OK here. There's my symbol. Now I'm going to do it again. Pick a point. Same point. Same symbol category, same type. For the tag, I'm going to make it HMI. For the family code, which typically you want to make the same as what the table's going to be in the parts database. Remember, I left it blank on the first one. Eventually, I am going to create a table called HM. So I'm going to put it in as the default for the family code attribute. I'll go back to my symbol builder. I'll pick done. Once again, under catalog lookup, it's going to DV, even though I had the HM as the default in the family code. Same list as I was just looking at. Now, I'll name this, let's say, HMI-1, just to give it a generic name. File path. Oop. Same thing. So I'll insert another one. Let's say right here. And once again, when I hit that lookup, same results. Because now, as you can see, it's all tied to the symbol name itself. So I'm going to hit cancel. I'll even hit cancel here. Now, I still haven't created the table in the parts database. Because once again, if I go back and take a look, no HM in here. Now I'm going to go back to the symbol builder one more time. Select my objects, pick a base point. Generic once again. I'll put in defaults for the tag. Same ones as before. Save it. And don't be fooled by this list. as far as you're going to see this HM on the list. It's because, you know, when I was setting up for the webinar, that list is basically a snapshot of a previous when I changed the parts database. It's ultimately not in the parts database, and it will automatically adjust itself when I do add one. So now this time down here, I'll call this HMI-2, and I'm going to change the symbol name manually to HM. And again, I'll just browse in this folder, put the PNG, the image file, in the same place. And I'll drop this one down right here. Now when I hit the lookup button, it says no catalog table found for this component type. Whether it's a specific to the block name or a general table, general family, which I would always recommend sticking with. So I'll pick OK. And now, as you can see right here, I can create the table right now on the fly. And it's based off of those two characters that I put in the symbol name, HM. So let's say I do that. I'm going to pick family right here. And it immediately created this category, this table. So now, as you can see, it is on the list itself. Now, typically, it's only because I did it once, and again, it's looking at a snapshot of the original one that I created. Typically, when you just hit component there, it doesn't give you a description. So at some point, you know, I added this FT doing the exact same method I did right here. No description on it. So that's not my preferred method. It will immediately create a table and add it. If you feel you don't need a description, you know, you're good to go. I think it's a good idea to put a description in there, especially as you start to add more and more tables. You're going to have some similar names. You're going to want to make sure you have a description on there. So it is created. I don't have any catalog numbers in here, but the whole point is making sure that it goes to the correct table. And as of right now, it is, because I just used that particular method. So if I just say OK here, and now if I go back to the catalog browser itself, you can see it is there. And if I do go to my project tab, other tools, add a table to the parts database, pick the file I'm using. Now, before this wasn't here, but now you can see it has been added. And like I said, when you just hit component in that one dialog box, it won't allow for a description. Now, in the same sense, let's say you did it on the fly, like I just did. You didn't put a description in there, and then it's like, oh, I want to put a description in there. You can open up the file, in this case, from Microsoft Access and add the description in there. I can't do it from within the software, but that is an option. If you're comfortable with Microsoft Access, if you have it loaded on your machine, you could open the file up and add the description in from there. Now, the next method I'm going to show you, and I have to close down the software to do this because I'm going to delete the database all together. This is the one I'm using right now. So I'm going to close AutoCAD Electrical down altogether. And then I'm going to delete this. As you can see, I made a couple of copies of the original. So let me delete this. And then I'll rename one of my copies to just the default cat MDB. So now I'm back to the original. I'll open up the software. I'll go back to the same drawing I was just in. And if I take a look at my list once again, whether it's from here, I should no longer see the HM. So I'm back to the way it was originally. As you can see, no more HM table in there. Same thing if I go to the catalog browser. No HM table in here. So the first method to add a table, your own custom table, is the way I just did it previously. So when you get that alert, there is no table, and you pick component, it's going to add it. It'll be available. My preferred method is set it up ahead of time. I know I'm going to create an HMI. I'm going to go take a look at my tables to see if there is a table dedicated for HMI symbols. And then when I create the symbol, it will be on the list at that point that I can choose from as far as the symbol naming convention, which ultimately dictates the table that you want to go to. So at this point right now, I'm going to go back to this other tools, and I'm going to say add table to catalog database. And I'm going to pick the file I'm using, the parts database file, default_cat.mdb. And for the table name, I'm going to call it HM. And I highly recommend when you're doing this, when you create a table, stick with 2 characters. If it's more than 2 characters, life gets more complicated in the sense that now you have to tie some other attributes to the symbol itself when you create it. Table description. So when I just hit component in the previous example, remember, no description appeared. I could fix that in Microsoft Access if I open up the file from Access. Now, when I stay inside the software and I add a new table, I can put the description in right away. And I'll call this human machine interface. And I'll pick OK. So now, once again, let me delete these other symbols here to get them out of the way. And then I'm going to create one more, and you'll see how everything's already pre-set up. I know I need to create a HMI symbol. It's brand new. No, I have to create a table. I just created the table first. So I'll go back to my symbol builder. Pick a base point. Still leaving on horizontal parent, still going to be generic. Remember, this is not a list of your tables. I'll say it once again. It's just a list of each category has some slightly different attributes you can add to the symbol in the block editor. If you don't see one, just pick generic and it'll list all the attributes that you have available. Pick OK. Now in my tag, I still want the tag to read HMI. I'm going to make the family code, which you typically do, the same as the table. Remember, the table's already there. I just created it. Okay, done. Now, instead of generic, and you'll see the symbol name change as soon as I pick a new table, which I just added right here. And remember, that was on the list before because it was kind of left over when I was prepping for this demo. It was not part of the parts database. Now it is. So now when I select that particular category, now the symbol name changes as it should. H for horizontal, HM for the table, one being a parent symbol. We'll just call this HMI -3 for now. And once again, I'll put it in the same spot. And I'll do the same thing for the PNG. And I'll pick OK. Insert another one. Now when I hit the lookup button, it goes right to my HM category. I set it up ahead of time. As soon as I hit the lookup button, it's going to go directly to there. No DV. And since I did it from, the one tool where you can add the tables, new tables, the description is going to be there all day long. So I completely did it inside the software, didn't have to open up Microsoft Access for anything. And that's how, I would approach adding new tables to the parts database. Try to do it ahead of time. If you have a brand new component, there's any question at all, if there is actually a table for it, go to your project tab, go to other tools, and pick the Add Table to Catalog Database. Select your file. That'll give you a list of what exists. And if the one that you're trying to use is not there, create it right on the fly with a table name and a description. The other way you can identify if a table exists at all is to go through your catalog browser. And you can go through your catalog browser just by going to the catalog browser. And it will give you the list, as you can see. Or, of course, the old right-click on the symbol, edit component, hit lookup, and this will give you a complete list of all the tables that exist as well. And just to point out, because I defaulted family code attribute to HM, which is going to be the same as the table that I'm going to use. You don't have to do that, but it's highly recommended. It just makes it easier when you're using, if you have to create a new symbol based off an existing one. I do that all the time when I can. And one in particular, and I don't know, I have no idea why they didn't do it this way, but if I insert a connector symbol, just insert a simple plug jack down here. Now notice the tag, it's PJ13T22 in this case. When I hit the lookup button, it goes to this CR or CO connector pins table. All's well and good. Oh, I wanted to put it in, not cancel. Now, in the same sense, if I double click on the symbol, notice the symbol name is HCO. So that's correct. That's what dictates the table it goes. But what I don't understand why they set these up this way. If I explode the symbol and I take a look at the default for the family code attribute, notice it's PJ. That's unusual. I'm sure AutoCAD Electrical had a good reason why they did it for this particular type of symbol. But typically, when you're creating the symbol, as much as you possibly can, make the family code attribute the same as what the table is in the parts database. What ultimately dictates what table you're going to look at is through the symbol naming convention. Okay, that concludes the adding tables to the parts database portion of the webinar. And now I'm going to go through the mark verify command. And I call this a hidden gem. Not many people know about it. It's not well advertised. And I call it a very poor man's version of a doc management software. Like, you can't even say it in the same breath as Autodesk Vault software. So if anybody's using Vault with their AutoCAD Electrical right now, you wouldn't even have a need for this tool. If you're not using Vault, the Mark Verify tool is there to track your changes in a very, basic way. So because AutoCAD Electrical doesn't have, any type of built-in doc management, in the software. And, we can't keep track of revisions. Now, you can with Vault, obviously, but if I'm not using Vault, there's no way I can track my revisions. There's no way I can track my changes. This is a tool that allows you to do that. It's basic, but at the very least, you can make an electronic file of the history of all the changes you made across the whole project or just to one particular drawing. So before I go to the tool itself, let me throw some wire numbers down on this drawing. And on the project tab, I have this Mark Verify Drawings command. And the way you set it up, I'm going to pick Mark right here. And when you pick Mark for the first time, what it actually does, it works in conjunction with your project database, your Scratch database. It puts an invisible mark on every single component in the drawing, meaning the components, the symbols, the wires, the wire numbers. It marks everything. Then after you mark it and you go in and make changes, it's going to record those changes that you're making. And it would be from the last time you marked it. You're not limited to just marking it once. You would have to mark it each time if you know you're going to make changes to a drawing. So I'm just going to do the active drawing. I could do the whole project or, several drawings inside of a project instead of the whole project. And I'm going to pick Mark here. And I'm going to select OK. And when you when you initially mark it, you can put your initials in there, let's say. You can put some comments in here. I'm going to call this table project EWG number 4, let's say. And I'll call this first mark, just to put something in there. And I'll pick OK. So just put an invisible mark on everything. It's invisible, it's done in the background. You don't care at this point. So now I'm going to come into this drawing and I'm going to make some changes. Let's say I want to swap out all these limit switches for proc switches. So I'm going to go to my swap update block command. I'll say drawing wide. I'll pick my new block from the icon menu. And I'll go to miscellaneous switches and I'll just pick a 2 connection point proc switch. So I can do them all at the same time. So there's 3 changes I made. Let's say I come down here and I want to get rid of the whole conveyor circuit here because I'm going to revamp it, whatever. So I'll go to delete components and I'm going to pick everything here. And then I'll trim my wires. And then I'll come up to the top right corner here. And let's say I'm going to, or actually before I do that, got ahead of myself. I'm going to come over here for these, safety relays and see how it says station 1 on the description here. I'm going to clear it out of the description and I'll make it an installation code. So I'll say edit component. I'll get rid of station 1 here. And I'll give it an installation code of station 1 instead. I'm going to task updating other drawings. And now I'll copy that installation code. Let's say to number 2 and number 3. And I'll task updating of other drawings once again. And then I'll just do one more change here. I'll change the description. We'll call this hydraulic motor, let's say, number 1. Yes, update, task the other ones. And then I'll change this description to hydraulic number 1 running, line 2. So I just made several changes to the drawing since I initially marked it. So now I'm going to go back to my project tab up top, go back to mark verify, still set to active drawing as you can see here. And I'm going to leave it on verify check for changes. Notice under active drawing statistics, it tells me when I marked it, got my initials in there, a few lines of descriptions, and I'm going to pick OK. So here's a complete list. It's tracking all the changes that I just made. Notice the new proc switches instead of limit switches. I added the station 1 installation code. It redid wire numbers when I deleted the circuit down below. Same with terminal numbers. Here's what I erased. And then what's nice about this is I could say display report format. And now I could save this to a file and put it back onto a drawing if you wish. I can even change the report format. Maybe I want to see the date on the end of this. I could add the comments that I initially put in. So I'll pick Save to File. I'll choose an Excel spreadsheet. I'll go to the same folder I've been using here. And it labels it, by default as verify, but I could name the spreadsheet anything I wanted to. Save it. Now if I go back to Windows Explorer, there's my spreadsheet. Come on. Whoop. So now I have it in a spreadsheet format. And again, I can do whatever I want with it. From here, I'm just going to auto format those so you can actually read it. So this is a way, like I said from the beginning, that you can actually track any changes you make throughout the design cycle. And you can even surf with this. If I close this down and I go back to the mark verify, I'll leave it on verify, this drawing, pick surf right here. Just in case you want to surf around the drawing to verify, some of these changes that you made. Let's make sure that I do see a proc switch instead of a limit switch right here. Let's see if I do see the installation. I can double click or do a single pick on go to. For everybody that uses the surf utility out there, you already knew that. But the point is, you can surf. Maybe somebody else needs to take a closer look at the changes you might have made. Not a problem. You can surf right inside the drawing to bump around to see what changes were made. So like I said, it's not the end all to be all. Hopefully someday we might be able to tie this into like a revision attribute that you do have on your title block. We can't do that right now. It's on my wish list. But if you're not using Vault or another document management system, fantastic way that you can track your changes. What it's all about is tracking your changes. All right, that's all I got. How are the questions out there? Don't see any yet. Is there any questions?
I don't have any.
Yeah.
You're just that good.
That's unusual, but we'll take it. Okay. And as Ashley will tell you, if you do have any questions, shoot us an email on anything that you saw in the webinar, and we'll make sure we get back to you about these two topics. Ashley?
Yes, thank you, Greg, for presenting. Thank you all for attending. If you do think of questions, you can simply reply to that confirmation or reminder email you receive from GoToWebinar. We can get those to Greg or your sales rep to get your questions answered. Once again, a short survey will pop up as we close down, and also a reminder that you will receive an email tomorrow, which will contain a link for the recording of this presentation. And we'll go ahead and close things down today, but have a great day, everyone, and thank you for attending. Bye.
Yes, thank you.